Alrighty, so I got a really exciting one for you. This is going to be an exclusive preview card from Twilight of the Republic. Wanted to give a big thanks to FFG and Xander, the community manager, for sending me this card. And yeah, for anyone who's never watched any of my content, I want to let you know that I focus primarily on the competitive aspects of this game. So if you're looking into branching into that kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, check out some of the videos. And all right. That's the lens I'm going to view this card in, and we're going to get right to it. So this is Morgan Elsbeth. This is a 4-cost Vigilance Villainy unit. It's a 3/6. It's got the Force, Imperial, and Official traits. It has Restore 1 and an on-attack ability that says you may defeat another friendly unit. If you do, draw a card. This is also a rare for those of you that are interested in that. So there's a lot to break down in this card. I think it's quite good. The first thing I want to do is kind of bring up an image of some of the most played 4-drop units in the game to date, like Lieutenant Charlton, Lone Pike. Both happen to actually be in this same color. Kira, Forlom, K2SO, and Kanan. These are some of the most heavily played 4-drops. 4-drops are a really interesting space because it's not quite at that point where I would say you need an immediate impact from your unit. I think once you get to like the 5s and 6s, it's really hard to play a unit that doesn't immediately do something, either with like a one-plate effect or an ambush or a sentinel. But the 4-drop, you still have a little bit of wiggle room. You see that with cards like Kanan and K2, who are both quite strong but don't immediately do something when you play them. For Lone Pike as well. Now some of these cards do often get paired up with Energy Conversion Lab, which I think is not something that you're going to want to do too much with Morgan Elsbeth because she only has 3 power, but her stats actually compare pretty favorably here. 6 health is a lot on a 4-cost unit. It puts her out of trade range with most other units at her cost. It puts her out of removal range from things like Takedown or Fell the Dragon. So she's kind of safe a lot of the time to get played. So I think she really stacks up well with this pool. I think as long as the synergies here that she provides you are going to be relevant, then there's certainly a lot of upside to include her. And we're going to see now my first thoughts as to where or and how we might want to play her. So number one I want to talk about is the official trait, which is a really, right now there's not a lot that cares about it. It's really just about Emperor's Royal Guard, but Emperor's Royal Guard is a very powerful card when you play it with Palpatine, and there's a lot of deck tension when you build a Palpatine deck because of Emperor's Royal Guard. Having that 3-cost 3/5 Sentinel online happens to be really important, but a lot of early units in these colors, the early officials, have not been very good. But I think we're about to get a pretty big upgrade in terms of new officials, especially blue ones. And I think that matters because of that card in the bottom right there, Lieutenant Charlton, who's on this image not because he turns on Emperor's Royal Guard, but because it's nice to be able to play him, but it's hard to play him in a deck that runs Emperor's Royal Guard because you need a lot of green units, because most of the officials to date have been green. And now we've got a lot of new blue ones. We see Rune Hako up there, Wartime Trade Official, and General Grievous are all official, and Morgan Elsbeth. So I think even if you're not playing the Royal Guard with a 2-cost official already in play, being able to play it and then the next turn play Morgan, Emperor's Royal Guard turns on, and you've got this 3/6 sitting behind it that can start restoring and drawing you cards. Potentially, it could be pretty important. So I think this Emperor's Royal Guard shell is going to be much better now in like a solid blue shell that can also make use of Lieutenant Charlton and have a really nice curve of a 3-drop official into a 4-drop Morgan, or in cases where you don't have the Royal Guard, you also have the Charlton Sentinel to help protect you. So I'd be looking at an official package with an Emperor Palpatine deck as one stop for Morgan. Next up is Force. Now, Force trait is incredibly powerful, has been a little lacking in the villain side of things, mostly because their units have been not so sturdy and not plentiful enough to trigger Force consistently. The hero side has had way more well-statted units and synergies that we're able to push into using these force cards, especially something like Force Throw, which is an incredibly powerful force payoff. But Morgan is a very well-statted 4-cost unit with 6 health. She actually has the same stats as 7th Sister, who costs 5. And I think we are going to get way more access to force stuff in villain decks now because of her. You are going to usually be able to play her, and the next turn she will usually still be alive because of the amount of health she has, which means things like Force Throw and Force Lightning are going to be much easier to trigger. Force Choke is going to get that reduction. It binds potentially, and any other future force payoffs, we will also look to see if she can help us there. Next up is a way to utilize her on attack. So her on attack is very interesting. I mean, drawing card is powerful. Defeating one of your own units, not great unless you have fodder units. Now, exploit decks are likely going to include a lot of fodder units, and potentially having something like Morgan to use those fodder units when you don't want to exploit something and kind of really cash everything in all at once for one big thing. Morgan can help refuel you while you're spending these units to kind of cheat out other cards, right? You may be a little bit card starved if you're using all these fodder units to then like sacrifice altogether into a big unit, but Morgan here is going to let you have a different angle to make use of these tokens, like Confederate Courier, who, you know, you play it, you can then sacrifice it, draw a card, you get a droid. Same with the Wartime Trade Official. Patrolling V-Wing looks like a great fodder unit in these exploit decks. Battle Droid Escort. So it's all going to kind of come together. Whether or not she fits exactly in that kind of strategy, not 100% sure, but I certainly think there's potential there. And the last kind of call out I want to do here is with this really new exciting legendary card we've seen. Now there are 2 of them. So Morgan being a 4-cost force unit means that on the 5 resource turn, you can play the big 7s. Currently, that's really Count Dooku. So you would be able to play, now there are 2 of them, and just get a Count Dooku out. We'll also obviously see if we get more force big units for Morgan to play with. Obviously, the deck needs to be blue-yellow in this case, so not a ton yet. But she also has Imperial trait and Official, so she just has a lot of really good traits. Like, I didn't even talk about Imperial synergies. I don't think most of them really apply here because they're usually tend to be a little more aggressive in nature, like TIE Advance and General Veers and the Snowtrooper Lieutenant. But the Imperial trait matters, and if we see like a big unit that's a 7-8 cost that we want to cheat out with this new trick, then she will be a good enabler there because of how sturdy her stats are. All right, so that's what I got. Just a few little comments. I think this card could definitely have a lot of potential. There's just a lot going on for it. We didn't even talk that much about the restore, but that is a very relevant thing. That kind of compares a little bit to Kanan, who, you know, often is attacking and restoring 1. Sometimes he gets the 2 restore if he gets lucky with what he hits. But just that incidental life is always going to be relevant. And there's just good stats. There's good numbers. There's good traits. There's a good on-attack ability. There's just a lot of stuff that we can build around with this card. And I think it's going to potentially fit in some decks. All right. That's what I got. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.